What is up, guys? We are just now pulling up into this random parking lot because I'm gonna give you guys my 1 month review of my new bike, which is the MT-10. As you guys can see, there it is. And as some of you guys might know or might not know, about a month ago, or actually it's about 5 weeks now, I upgraded to this MT-10 from my previous bike, which was a KTM 390 Duke. So huge jump. I really wasn't planning on getting this bike. The only reason that I got it was because I got an insanely good offer on it, and it would have been stupid not to accept it. It was pretty much going to be the same price as a 690 Duke. So insane price. I needed to go with this one, so I ended up getting the bike. But anyways, I've had it for about a month now, so I'm going to give you guys my little review on it. I am no expert. This is just my little personal opinion on the bike and how it has been owning one. So first things first, let me get off the bike and let me show you the bike. It's pretty dirty right now because I've been out in the twisties and stuff, but here she is. I personally love the look. I will say that this is not a stock windscreen. This is actually one that I bought myself. Got it a little bit bigger than the stock one, and I completely love it. The front of it, you either hate it or you love it. Some people say it looks like a transformer. Some other people say it looks like a bug. Hey, you either hate it or you love it. Personally, I love it. I love how it looks. And here's how it looks from this angle. Another disclaimer, this is not a stock exhaust. That is a slip-on Yoshimura exhaust, or however the hell you say it. I call it the Yoshi. And that is what I got on the bike right now. Here's a little bit of a better angle so that you guys can see it. Also, the seat that I got on it is also not stock. That is I don't know what type of seat that is, but I love it, and it's actually more comfortable than the stock one. I've already tested it out, so do highly recommend this bike. It says Louis Moto, whatever, somebody recommended it to me. Love it. But yeah, here's how she looks visually. Some people love it, some people hate it. Personally, I love how it looks. Also, I got custom ASV levers on each side, and I also like those very much. So let's get into the actual feel of being on top of the bike. So as you guys can tell, or maybe not can tell from the video, but this is actually a much larger bike than my last bike. So on the KTM 390 Duke, I was able to very easily get on it, and I could, you know, have my feet planted on both sides very easily. I am 5'8", or like 173 centimeters, if you guys use that metric. I cannot plant my foot on either side. I am on my tippy toes. Now, if I take the kickstand off and I lean towards one side, I can very comfortably plant my foot, but my other foot is completely floating and off of the floor. I have pretty short legs. I'm a short dude, 5'8", as I mentioned, so this is a little bit of a big bike for me. So even though it's tall, it's so comfortable to be on. I actually prefer a bike of this height much over my last bike, especially as I started going on like the freeway and stuff like that. This feels like a much more comfortable and more powerful, stable bike to be on in comparison to my last bike. Now, as you can see right here, we do have a couple of options on either side. We got the menu wheel, which we'll get into in a bit. We got the stop, the start, we got the lights, we got the signal lights as well, we got the horn, and we also got the emergency lights and cruise control, which is super cool feature. I absolutely love having cruise control. Later on in the video, I'll show you guys the experience of using cruise control on the freeway, but it's pretty easy. You pretty much just press on the cruise control and whatever speed you're going right here, then you set it and it just goes by itself. You can actually put it up or down, and this little lever right here on the back is to be able to go through the modes and stuff like that. So let's actually turn it on. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is the same display that you guys are gonna find in the R1. So as you can see, it's pretty basic display. It tells you your miles, the gear that you're on, the mode that you're on right here. So if I go and you see, I can actually switch modes. So I switched it to B, switched it to A. So Each and every one of these modes is highly customizable, which I absolutely love. Like, you can put whatever custom settings you want in each and any one of those modes, you know, however much wheelie control you want, the throttle sensitivity, the MTC, the ABS. It's all controllable and customizable, and you can set your own modes. So I use specifically mode C the most, which has power mode 1, and if I click on mode right here, you can see power mode has 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what this power mode do specifically is, on power mode 4, this is gonna have the slowest throttle response, right? So it's gonna be it's gonna give you a little bit more leeway when you crank on that throttle. Now if you go to power mode number 1, which is what I usually use, that one's gonna have the highest sensitivity out of all the modes. So as soon as you touch it, it's gonna go. So definitely not something for beginners, especially a 1000cc bike like this. If you make a mistake because you don't have a lot of throttle control, you will pay for it quite a bit, okay? But it does have a bunch of other stuff right here, which I'll get into in just a bit. Also, we can see obviously the RPMs, and we can see the fuel gauge, which I actually don't like. I'm gonna be sprinkling in a couple of cons throughout the entire video, and most of them are not gonna be big cons, but if there's something that does bother me, is this damn fuel gauge. I don't like it, because it gives you kind of like the odd false impression that you have, you know, it's split up into 4 parts, but really the first part right here is the entire half of it, right? Half of the tank. So if the first little section goes, that means you're done with 50% of your tank, and then the other 50% of your tank is split up into 3 sections, which doesn't make any sense to me, but that's how Yamaha decided to do things, so whatever. If there was one thing that kind of annoyed me about that at first, I kind of didn't get it, but it would be that thing. Now let's get into this little menu wheel right here. So if we press and hold the menu wheel, it'll go into the actual settings. And by the way, if I had to put a con number 2 of things that annoy me, this little menu wheel right here could be annoying at times. Now most of the time it's pretty easy to use. As you guys can see, you just go up and down, and you click on any one of these settings, but sometimes it's so easy to click on the wrong thing with this damn menu wheel. So if there's another little nitpicky thing that I would say it's kind of annoying, but it's not a deal breaker, is this damn menu wheel. But anyways, you go into here, you're gonna see your display mode, your YRC settings, which is all of the customizable modes. So if I click on that, you can see that I can customize every single little thing into 4 modes. So you can have a maximum of 4 different modes, fully customizable. So you can pick the settings. You guys can see the power, the TCS, the SCS, the wheelie control, the traction control, the ABS. Literally, it's all there. You can pick whatever level you want for any one of these things, and you can set that mode specifically. So for example, my C mode is pretty much my my rain mode. Actually, my D mode is practically my rain mode. My C mode has the most safety, but it has the most sensitive throttle control, and my A mode is like everything off. Most sensitive throttle control is like advanced settings. So that's how I have it set specifically. If I press back, you also have some lap times for those of you that like to hit the track. You can schedule your maintenance right there, the units, wallpaper, shift indicator, display settings, brightness, you know, and just reset everything, your clock. So basic stuff that you would have on anything. So it has a fair bit of technology that you can utilize, especially with those modes. And I find them to be extremely helpful, especially me, which I jumped from a 400cc to a 1000cc bike. The modes were a game changer. Now at this point, I'm very used to the bike. I've taken most of the things off, but still, you know, as somebody that was making that big transition, that was huge. That was a game changer, having those modes. So yeah, let's get out of this. And as you can see, key goes right there. And if I were to give you a little bit of a con number 3, something that's a little bit annoying, this part right here is extremely crowded. I used to have a key with a bunch of keychains and stuff, and they would get caught up in between all the cables and everything that's going on over here. Like I said, not a big deal, but I did have to change keys and you know, remove everything from it, and now it's good to go. But this area right here, very, very quiet. As you can see, it has a power outlet. You're gonna plug in something there, and then I also have my quad lock right here in the middle. So let's go ahead and turn on the bike and let's listen to the sound. So let me get off of it, actually put it in neutral, get off the bike, come this way. As I mentioned, this is not a stock exhaust, and yes, the bike is dirty as hell. I'll wash it very soon, but let's hear it start up. Obviously this is not a cold startup. I went over here, I drove over here, so let's hear it. It sounds amazing. I love the sound of this bike, both with this slip-on and even with the custom, I mean with the OEM, the original one. This bike sounds so powerful. It's absolutely insane. This bike sounds so violent, but it's not to the point where it's just absolutely annoying. Because, for example, obviously this bike sounds a lot more powerful than any usual bike, but it doesn't sound like some of my buddies. They have 1000cc bikes with entire custom systems, right, for their exhaust, and it almost sounds like a Formula One car, and it's so loud. That those are the type of loud that will get you pulled over. This is definitely loud enough. It sounds really aggressive, it sounds super powerful, but it doesn't sound too bad to the point where you're gonna get pulled over and the cops are gonna hate you for it. So really love the sound of this bike. This is the best sounding bike that I have tried, even when I have tried other ones that are like a lot more powerful, I guess, and a lot louder. For some reason I can't say that they sound better, because there is a certain point where it's just, okay, that's a little bit too much. For my personal taste, this one sounds absolutely perfect. So that's my take on the sound. Now let's get, I'm gonna ride it a little bit so you guys get a little bit of that experience. Let's turn it back on again. Before I turn it on, something that I want to mention: I do a lot of low speed stuff in parking lots just like this, and I will say that if I were to give you another little con, this is probably like con number 4. If you're somebody that likes to do a lot of low speed stuff, there is not as much give on the handlebars as in other naked bikes that I've tried. Especially, like, I've tried a bunch of, like, even adventure bikes and stuff like that. So like BMWs that feel like they can turn forever, the KTMs, I've tried the 390, what is it, the 690 and the 890, and a couple of other ones, and they all feel like they can turn a lot more. This one feels like it kind of taps out pretty quickly in comparison. Now, it's nothing bad. You can still do all the slow speed stuff, but it's something to have in mind, because when I started doing the slow speed stuff, it wasn't as easy to do as it was on those other bikes. Now, you can definitely still do it. It's just not as easy. It's gonna require a little bit more skill, and especially since it doesn't go too far, and also this bike is heavy. So this bike weighs about 465 pounds or 212 kilos. So this is definitely, you know, this is a big bike. You know, if you start almost trying to drop it right here, you'll definitely start feeling that weight of it all. But when you're actually going, it feels so nimble. So let's go ahead and turn it on, put it in first gear. Let's go right here through the parking lot. Nothing crazy. So this thing, look, it goes about 10 to 12 miles an hour just idling with literally no throttle. Now, I will say that was something that did annoy me. What is it? The little con number, what, 4 or 5? When you turn this bike on for the first time, yeah, meaning a cold start, the RPMs are a little high. I've gone as much as 13 miles an hour on idle, just like this. Now, usually it'll hang around 9 to 10, but when you start it up, it's gonna be around I'd say anywhere from 11 to 13 miles an hour. Now I have heard that if you get it flashed, that goes away and it actually runs a lot smoother. But from my experience, this is, you know, my bike is stock, so it's not ECU flashed or anything. So sometimes when I do turn it on, the RPMs are a little high, and that could be a little annoying, but it's not a big deal. After a while, you kind of get used to it. And then if you turn it off later and then you turn it on back up again later during the day, it won't do it. It's kind of like on that first startup, that'll always happen for some reason. Now, okay, here we go. The brakes on this bike, so I'll show you guys a little bit once I actually go on the street, but I'll say it from now. The brakes on this bike could be better, and I say that in comparison to other bikes that I've tried. I even tried an R6, which, I mean, it's in the same Yamaha family, and the R6 feels like it stops so much quicker and more powerfully than this MT-10, which is wild to say, because it's like, yo, this is a 1000cc bike. You want if you're gonna go very fast, you also want very powerful brakes, and I feel like it just doesn't have the same amount of like bite and just stopping power that the R6 had, or other bikes that I've had. I've tried a couple of BMW bikes, and oh my god, the BMW bikes, they stop so powerfully, and this one, I don't know what it is, but it feels kind of spongy. Like it just feels like it's just not all the way there. Now it's not bad, but it's definitely just like not all the way there. So I would put that as like a little bit of a con, but obviously it's still a beauty. It still stops just in time. It still does everything that you need it to do. It's just, I feel like it could be a little bit better, especially for the price point and having this be such a powerful bike. Like, I'm very surprised that it doesn't have a better brake. So yeah, I wanted to mention that. But let me go ahead and shut up and actually take an exit right here, and we'll start going down the street. I'll put my visor down. Oops, there's no exit right here. But as you can see, it's very nimble. It's very easy to just drive around in slow speed. This bike has a ton of power. Like, it has an insane amount of power. This bike has the amount of power that 99.9% of people are never even going to utilize, because the torque on this is just so ridiculous. And I mean, it is an MT. MT, for those of you that don't know, stands for Masters of Torque, and they're not playing when they say they got a lot of torque. Like, this shit is fucking ridiculous. The amount of torque that this thing has is absolutely insane. So let's go right here. Okay, we'll do a little bit of street riding. I'll close up my helmet. The audio is probably going to change just a little bit. Okay, so now we're in the street. Helmet is closed. Very easy to maneuver anywhere that you would like. Now, I will say, when you're in power mode 1, the throttle, if you don't have very good throttle control, you're gonna pay for it immediately. You're gonna feel the vibe being kind of choppy. It has a little bit of, it's weird. Sometimes it has a little bit of a delay, and then sometimes it doesn't. Now, a lot of people have says this is a common problem that these bikes have, and that it goes away once you also do an ECU flash. So it seems like there are a couple of common problems with the MT-10 of this specific generation. This is a 2022 that a lot of people have fixed with an ECU flash, which means that if you're gonna have it stock, it's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna have, one, the high RPMs when you turn it on, and number 2, when you're in power mode 1, it's gonna feel a little choppy. But honestly, it's not a big deal. Like, if you have a good throttle hand, if you have some really good throttle discipline and throttle control, it's really not a big deal. Like, it's nothing. Now, this bike, the power that it has, as I said, is no joke. If I go on the freeway, and I will go on the freeway later on to demonstrate the acceleration and the handling, this thing will go up to like almost 80 miles an hour just on first gear. Just on first gear alone. This thing is mad ridiculous. Now, look, no hand, look at the shifter, all the way up, boom. This has a quick shifter, and it has an auto blip. Also down, no throttle. as you can see. Very smooth, very easy to do. Quick shifter and auto blip, very good features on this bike. I will say this, I use the quick shifter often, but I don't often use the auto blip down. I feel like sometimes the auto blip down is a little clunky. I don't really enjoy using it, but the quick shifter up, very, very responsive. Woo! Oh shit, I'm telling you guys, this bike does not fuck around. If you fuck around on this bike, you will in fact find out. This thing, the torque on it, the acceleration on it, look, absolutely maddening. It's ridiculous. It's out of this world. This is more power than this type of power. It invokes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. I'm telling you, this bike is not for everybody. This amount of power is just absolutely ridiculous. Like when I'm going around the city, and obviously when there's a lot of cars and stuff like that, you don't want to be in higher gear, so I keep it in like first or second gear. I'll put it on second right now. You will never have a problem passing somebody up on the freeway or on the street. You will never have a problem of not being able to keep up. It is just absolutely mad. Like it's insane. It's insane. It's definitely too much power. It's definitely too much power, but it is controllable. It's great. It's absolutely great. When I am going through the streets and I'm actually driving like a law-abiding citizen, the fuel is not that bad. A lot of people told me, yo, the fuel on the MT-10s is horrible. Now, from what I've heard on previous generation bikes, meaning 2020 and below, apparently it was absolutely god-awful. Now, on this generation bike, this is the 2022, apparently it got about a 20 to 25% improvement on the fuel. So I will say this, I've gotten almost, I believe, just over 150 miles for the entire gallon, and that was, you know, freeway miles. That was me, you know, low RPMs, cruise control. Like if you drive responsibly, the fuel range is not that bad. It could be, you know, it could be better. It's not going to compare to like a bigger tank or an adventure bike or anything like that, but it's decent, you know, it's not horrible. Now, I will say this, every time that I've gone to like the twisties or that I've been riding around like a hooligan and just going a little bit too fast and up there on the RPMs, I will say you will burn through fuel so easily and so quickly. So for example, last time I went to the twisties, I put a full tank right before going into the twisties, right? I was at the twisties for like what, 2 or 3 hours practicing going up and down. It burned 3/4 of the tank in like 2 or 3 hours. Like insane. Like it'll really go through it. It definitely doesn't compare to like my KTM or anything like that. The KTM, it seems like it could last forever. And I mean, if you use it very responsibly and you keep the RPMs low and you use cruise control so that you're actually very consistent with it, and you're getting mostly highway miles and stuff like that, it's not going to be too bad. It's really not going to be too bad. It's not going to be great, but it's not going to be horrible. But if you're riding this bike as you are meant to ride this bike, which, you know, a bike with this much power is going to invoke a lot of power when you ride it, it's, you know, you'll burn through your gas pretty quickly. So, you know, that could either be seen as, I don't know if it's really a con or not. It's just what it is to be expected. You know, if you ride around like an asshole, it's gonna burn a lot of fuel, and it's gonna burn a lot of fuel very quickly. So what I want to do at this point is I'm gonna jump to a clip that I have of me on the freeway. So I'll see you there. Alright guys, so here is a clip of me on the freeway. I wanted to get the raw sound for this, but I just could not get the microphone to work with the wind pressure. I don't know what's wrong with my setup, but I tried it a couple times. It just does not work. It sounds like a mess. But anyways, here we are cruising on the freeway. I'm about 4th gear right now, going about 65, 70 miles an hour. And as you can see, it is no struggle for the bike. It is actually an incredibly comfortable bike. I'm over here getting in the HOV lane, the carpool lane, because that is legal to do over here in California. On the left hand side of the handlebars, you can see all the controls right there, the lights, the cruise control, adjusting the speed of the cruise control. If you actually click on the cruise control and then press set, you're good to go. As you can see right here, you can take your hands off of it. You can do anything that you would like to do, and it's very easy to handle. You can just push forward on any one of the handlebars, as I'm demonstrating a little bit of that counter steering right here, and it just starts going insanely quickly. It's a very nimble bike when it's actually going up to speed. You can also adjust the speed of the cruise control by pressing up or down on the buttons right next to the cruise control, and it'll start picking up speed or slowing down. You can also just take it off, and I'm right here. I'm going to show you a little bit of an example of the acceleration capacity of this bike. 6th gear right here, passing all the cars. I'm legally supposed to tell you that this is not real, but as you can see, got up to like 141 without even trying. I mean, I did not even try. I did not crank all the way on the throttle. As you can see, my throttle hand, it hardly moved, and this bike just likes to go. It accelerates so hard. It reaches crazy speed. So it's an amazing bike. You can use it as a touring bike. I do know people that use it as a touring bike. It's not going to be the best for gas, but hey, it is what it is. But the wind pressure is actually not that bad, even with the stock windscreen. Obviously the one that I got right here is not the stock one, but it still works pretty beautifully. I mean, if you've been on naked bikes before, you know what to expect. It's not going to be the best of the best, but it works out very well. But other than that, it also has a speed limiter. So if you press on the cruise control twice, you can set it to, like, let's say 65 miles an hour. And it doesn't matter how hard you crank on that throttle, it'll never go past 65 miles an hour. So it has tons of features. It's very nice to use on the freeway. It has more power than you could ever imagine, or that you're ever going to need on the freeway. So yeah, great bike for the freeway. I'll see you guys on the next clip. That was a little clip of me on the freeway. I had to replace the audio because the wind pressure was ridiculous and the mic was just not picking it up, so whatever. But I demonstrated the cruise control. You guys can see that it works like a charm. It demonstrated a little bit of that power, you know. As I said, legally I'm not allowed to say. It's all fake. It's AI generated, but I might have gotten to about 141 and I didn't even try. I didn't even crank all the way or anything like that. So it's a very powerful bike. I think stock completely you can probably get to around 150 something ish. If you get a custom exhaust and you get an ECU flash, you're gonna get a lot more out of it. You know, you're gonna get into the 160s, 170s even. So and that's in miles per hour, obviously. So it's an insanely powerful bike. Now, in terms of who is this bike for, like, who is this bike really for? Honestly, I have no justification for anybody having a bike this powerful, and that's just me being honest. I bought this bike myself because I got a really good deal on it for my skill level and the things that I'm doing with it. Honestly, it's overkill. I've tried the MT-07 and I've tried the MT-09. That's an insane amount of power as well. Obviously, it doesn't feel like this, but it's a whole lot of power that for the average person is going to be sufficient. It's going to be enough. You know, most people are going to be completely fine with an MT-07, and if you like to go just a little bit faster, if you like to, you know, feel a little bit more of a rush, the MT-09 is going to be perfect for you. This thing right here is just an absolute monster, and it's just absolute overkill. I think the only people that should get a bike like this is people that are, number one, extremely experienced with bikes. Number two, are actually utilizing the power going very fast on either the twisties or on the track. You know, if you're somebody that's super serious about the track and you can, you know, you're handling low cc bikes like nothing, and you're trying to upgrade to a 1000cc bike, but you also want something that's pretty comfortable for going around the city. So you have the comfort of a naked bike, but also you have 1000cc power. This bike is probably for you if you're somebody that's highly advanced. Honestly, for me, I'm not skilled enough to utilize all of the power of this bike, and that's just me being completely honest. And from my experience, all the people that I've met in the community, or most people that I meet on the community, and most people that I think are getting into motorcycling and stuff like that, they're not really going to be able to take advantage of the full power of a motorcycle like this, and it's really just overkill. That's what I'm trying to say. As I mentioned, if you're really looking into the MTs, into the Yamahas, and you want one of these naked bikes, MT-07, if you're kind of like a beginner. If you want to play a super safe, the MT-03, you can try that one. It's pretty slow, but if you want a little bit more power, that middle zone that I think beginners can get away with, and is going to have enough power for literally anybody in the city, the MT-07 is going to be the way to go. Now, if you want just a little bit more power, I think the MT-09 is going to be your best bet, especially the 2024 MT-09. I tried it out. It has so much technology. It has more technology than this MT-10. The new generation MT-09s are ridiculous. They have a super nice display. They have GPS and Bluetooth connectivity. They have literally everything you could think about. So I think for most people, if you want a little bit more power, the MT-09 is going to be the way to go. And for the true fanatics, for the people that really want all of the power in the world, then there's the MT-10. So yeah, as I mentioned, you know, I'm just honest with it. I bought this bike because I got a really good deal on it, but I honestly have no business being on a bike this powerful. I cannot utilize the power. But if you're somebody that can, I highly recommend this bike. It's such a fun bike. This bike, you know, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before in my other videos, but I have wide access to a lot of motorcycles, and I go ride many motorcycles very often. And you know, after a while, you start getting a little bored of the motorcycles. You're like, yeah, you know, I've ridden this before. This is nothing. You know, I've ridden these BMWs before, like these KTMs or these Kawasaki's, whatever. But this thing right here, ever since I got it, every single time that I use it is like the first time. Like, there's a certain amount of excitement that comes from having this animal, this 1000cc naked animal. And man, honestly, I just love it. And even though I can't utilize all the power and everything that it has to offer, I absolutely do not regret getting this bike. Not one bit, not for 1 second. This bike, it's such a beauty and an amazing experience to use all the time. So I would highly, 10 out of 10, I would recommend. But like I said, it's not for everybody. And absolutely no for beginners. I'm gonna make a video later on about experiencing the jump from a 400cc to a 1000cc bike. But this is 100% not for beginners. I would not recommend this for any beginner ever. It's gonna be a recipe for disaster. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much all that I have to say. I've already recorded a couple of videos of me in the twisties with this bike. Go ahead and check it out. It was actually my first time in the twisties, and it was ridiculously fun. One thing I will say before I close it out is that Yamahas are known for being very reliable, and also the maintenance on this is actually super cheap. I was very surprised when I took it to like the maintenance and to get adjusted and stuff like that. It was actually cheaper than my KTM 390, which was pretty wild to say, because that was a much smaller bike. And you know, it was a newer bike, it was a smaller bike. Didn't expect it to be so expensive. But this right here, the KTMs, I mean the Yamahas, they have so many parts out there that you could customize. They're super reliable, and I feel like the maintenance is pretty cheap as well. Like, you can take it to anybody, or you can learn it yourself. But me, I usually just take it to somebody to do it for me, because I don't want to mess it up. And the maintenance was so cheap, and it's great. So I will mention that in comparison to other brands that might not be as reliable. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say about this damn monster right here. I never get tired of that. I just never get tired of that. So yeah, that's all that I have to say about this monster right here. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that I just mentioned, please do let me know. Let me know what's your experience, you know, owning a bike of this caliber, if you do have an MT-10 as well. And other than that, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.